Evening team, it's a quiet Lama here. It's another big news day for coronavirus, right? I think there are 475 less Italians in the world today than there were yesterday, which is pretty horrific, right? So one of the perhaps positive outcomes, and people dying, there's nothing positive about it, right? Maybe one of the silver linings, for want of a better term, is, I'm not sure where you are in the world, but here in Australia we have a little bit of an anti-vax movement. Those people that don't feel they should vaccinate, don't want to get their kids vaccinated. Well, they've gone a bit quiet because now they're living in a world where we don't have a vaccine, and we don't have a vaccine just for one disease, right? New Zealand closes its borders to all foreign nationals sometime later today. Tomorrow Australia does the same thing. We're living in a world where people are restricted from visiting their elderly relatives, their mums and dads, their grandparents at nursing homes, because through lack of vaccine those same visitors may kill them. So hopefully the situation that's currently unfolding isn't beyond the intellectual ability of these anti-vaxxers. Maybe they're now starting to realise, gee, a world without vaccine isn't such a great prospect. It's not such a fun place. I suppose that was my little rant. Just annoys me how these people take it upon themselves to take these choices away from their kids, to essentially impact the lives of their children through ignoring medical advice. Instead, they'll adhere to some big, new world order fantasy or some threat they perceive. Maybe they start to understand now. But outside of that, what should we talk about today? Bit of a pause there, wasn't there? I think I'd like to talk about superbikes. Bikes like these. 1000cc bikes, 200 horsepower. Some of them now, this one's a 2016 model. Some of them now coming out with 200 at the rear wheel, which is pretty phenomenal. And do they have a place on the road? Is this where they should be? Should people like me be allowed to go and purchase such monsters of machines? Well, obviously I think yes. Perhaps a somewhat biased sample, but I'll tell you why. So that currently, and it may change, the motorcycle market is certainly a very changing beast. When I first started riding, everyone rode sports bikes. The kind of nakeds or the street fighters were just starting to come in, but you know, the sports bikes are just shooting out the door. But currently sports bikes are still the flagship bikes for the vast majority of companies. There are the exceptions like KTM that don't have a sports bike. Although their RC8 was an amazing looking machine. I never had the opportunity to ride one, but it was certainly something I was considering when I was looking to purchase my next motorbike. So these bikes, these 1000cc plus bikes, enormous power, and the flagship bike of the motorcycle industry. It means you get the best stuff. So by that I mean, perhaps with the exception of some naked bikes that I think they're pretty rare. Ducati might have one with its V4 Street Fighter. If you want electronic suspension, you need to buy a superbike. If you want the best brakes, you need to buy a superbike. If you want the best electronics all round, you need to buy a superbike. Now hopefully in time these technical marvels will be available in different CC and engine configurations. But right now they're not. I wanted all the electronics, so I got this. The power is cool, you know, but in saying that, I've never had the throttle wide open in any gear. I don't need a 1000cc engine, but I need, or I want rather, all the bits that go around it. And that's why I think they're still relevant, right? Probably don't, I don't need as much power. I did like the torque figure of this bike, and if you want decent torque on a sports bike, you need to get a big bike. The 600cc bikes don't have the sort of torque that is after. We're just having a stop so that one of the probably my only complaint about the bike, I think it is my only complaint, is the frequency at which I visit service stations. Part of that frequency is not so much fuel economy. The fuel economy is actually not too bad. It's the size of the tank. So my fuel tank is only 15 litres. Part of that, I believe, is that Yamaha, in creating the bike and designing it, obviously had a weight figure in mind that they were aiming for. So fully wet, this bike is 200 kgs. And I suspect one of the things that suffered to get to that weight was the fuel tank size. You know, if you want to take a couple of kgs of weight off your bike, and if you're designing one, a very cheap way to do that is to make your fuel tank a bit smaller. I would ideally love one of those endurance tanks out of Beta, out of Japan, but they are a little bit expensive at about $5 grand, and that was before coronavirus, when the Australian dollar went to hell. So let me just tidy up this little bill, and I'll be right back with you. So 13.5 litres, 13.1, so that's pretty good margin of error, right? So as other commenters have said, the R1 doesn't come with a fuel gauge, but it does come with a fuel consumption meter. So each time I fill up, I just reset it. There you go. Not such a big deal, is it? There we are. So is it? It's full. Now, just once in a while I'll check my fuel consumption, and that does the job. Look at that, R1M, practical. Well team, I'm about to go on the motorway, which kills the sound. So I will bid you farewell. Hope that my little rant about the anti-vaxxers was okay. And until next time, this is the Quiet Llama signing out.